My fiancé fell in love with my best friend and insisted on canceling our engagement to marry her instead. At the wedding, with tears in my eyes, I gave my blessings and decided to let go of this relationship. But my best friend pulled me to the rooftop and a sinister smile curved her lips. Neither you nor him can escape. After saying that, she jumped off. When I was reborn and returned to the wedding scene, the pain in my chest and the feeling of suffocation hadn't completely disappeared yet. In my previous life, Sunny was about to enter the banquet hall and said she was too nervous. So she asked me to accompany her to the rooftop of the hotel to get some air. Sunny and I were college classmates and best friends. And we had always had a very good relationship. But who would have known that after my fiancé, the fawn, Ethan, saw Sunny for the first time, he was so obsessed that he quickly cancelled our engagement and was determined to marry her. Looking at the two people who were in love with each other, I chose to let go. After all, I found wasn't the only man in the world. If he didn't like me, I could just find someone who did. Right? So when Sunny sent me the wedding invitation, I readily agreed to attend and took her to the rooftop to get some air. But after we got to the rooftop, Sunny pulled me to the edge of the rooftop. When Ethan was about to arrive, she suddenly tore off the veil on her head, stuffed it into my hand, and then leaned close to my ear. Neither you nor him can escape. Then she smiled gently at me and jumped off without hesitation. Blood stained her skirt red. Ethan rushed forward and grabbed my neck. Wendy, you're such a vicious woman. In order to marry into the Ethan family, you didn't hesitate to kill my wife. Your friend. I shook my head wildly. But he didn't listen to my explanation at all and was convinced that I pushed her downstairs out of jealousy. He took me back to the secret manor of the Ethan family, tied my hands and feet with ropes, and kept pushing me off the rooftop on the second floor and lifting me up again. You should also taste the feeling of falling to your death. In the end, I was covered in blood and flesh after hitting the ground again, and I took my last breath. Wendy, can you accompany me to the rooftop to get some air? Please? A familiar voice came. I couldn't help but shiver and quickly waved my hand, saying, no. There's suddenly a contract that needs to be signed in the company. I'm leaving now. You can ask the makeup artist to take you there. After saying that, I stood up, picked up my bag, and planned to leave. A sinister laugh came from behind. I turned around and saw Sunny suddenly stand up, rush in front of me, pull out the hairpin on her head, and quickly insert it into her neck. I instinctively tried to stop her, but she pushed me away with the last of her strength. Her throat gurgled, and blood kept flowing out. But there was a look of relief on her face. Her eyes were blood red, and she said that sentence again. You and him all deserve to die. Neither of you can escape, just like in the previous life. Ethan once again saw the false image of me killing Sunny. He rushed forward and choked my neck tightly. Wendy, I'm going to make you wish you were dead but unable to die. After Ethan imprisoned me in the manor and humiliated me in every way, he still wasn't satisfied. He sold me to the black market. Under Ethan's care, all the people who came to visit me were perverted, bloodthirsty, and extremely vicious. In the end, I was torn to death by a shark in a show of beautiful women and sharks. And there wasn't a single piece of an injured skin on my body. When I woke up from the pain again, this was my third time being reborn. At this time, the wedding invitation of Ethan and Sunny had just been delivered to the villa of the Wendy family. I took the invitation, and my hands couldn't stop shaking. My mother came over and gently patted my shoulder. Wendy, Mom knows that you and Yiz had a baby Betweffel since you were young. But in matters of feelings, you can't force it. There are plenty of good men in the world. In a few days, Mom will ask Aunt Jang and Aunt Gu to find someone who is 10 times more handsome than Ethan. Tears uncontrollably fell from the corners of my eyes. I choked up and said, Mom and Dad, let's not go to the wedding. Okay? Let's not go at all. My father came over and tore up the invitation. Okay. We won't go. We don't care about the Ethan family. A renowned noble family. I nodded and wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. This time I won't go to the wedding scene. No matter what. Sunny's death can't be blamed on me. But in the evening, Ethan still came. With his deep and distinct facial features filled with coldness and anger. Ethan suddenly grabbed my chin. And my face was forced up to look into his eyes. Wendy. You have some nerve. You dared to send this video to Sunny as a wedding gift. Sunny was heartbroken after watching the video. And that's why she suddenly had a serious illness and died after failed rescue efforts. It's you who caused me to be separated from her by life and death. I was stunned. My mind went blank. What video? I had never sent a video to Sunny. The wedding gift I gave to Sunny was a string of ruby necklaces. It's you who caused me to be separated from her by life and death. Ethan grabbed my hair and forced me to look at the dazzling phone screen. The man in the video was Sunny's boyfriend. He was pressed to the ground by Ethan's people and was beaten black and blue. In order to marry Sunny, Ethan used all means to force him to break up with Sunny. But I wasn't even at the scene at that time. How could there be this video? Ignoring the pain in my chin, I shook my head desperately and was about to open my mouth to explain when the butler beside me suddenly knelt down in front of me. Miss. Just admit it. You asked me to secretly follow President Ethan and take this video. You also said that as long as Sunny watched this video, she definitely wouldn't marry President Ethan. I didn't expect that this video would actually kill Sunny. What a sin. As soon as these words were said, all my explanations suddenly became pale and powerless. I didn't understand why the butler wanted to slander me. But I didn't have time to ask for clarification. The villa of the Wendy family was surrounded layer by a group of thugs brought by Ethan. Ethan sent people to tie me and my parents to chairs and poured gasoline all over our bodies. As the flames ignited, a wave of heat rushed towards us. I closed my eyes in despair. When I was reborn for the 4th time, I woke up in the car. I hurriedly picked up my phone. It was March 7th now. Today was the day when Ethan just officially announced that he was with Sunny. The tragic scenes of my previous 3 deaths flashed through my mind like a revolving lantern. And I couldn't help but shiver. It seemed that as long as Sunny died, Ethan would blame me for her death without distinguishing right from wrong or investigating the truth. That is to say, only if Sunny didn't die could I survive. Thinking of this, I quickly dialed Ethan's phone number. A lazy and casual voice came from the other end of the phone. Hello, Wendy. You've seen the news, right? I'm sorry, but I really like Sunny. Just name whatever compensation you want. In the morning, after learning that Ethan was in love with Sunny, I readily agreed to cancel the engagement between the two families. Now Ethan still felt a bit guilty towards me. I took a deep breath and tried my best to make my voice not tremble. It doesn't matter. But Ethan, listen carefully. Sunny will definitely be in danger in these 3 days. You must send someone to protect her every step of the way. Also, heading full my obsession. Have the family medical team of the Ethan family on standby at all times. After saying this, I quickly hung up the phone, stepped on the gas pedal hard, and drove towards the airport. Ethan was the kind of person who always made sure everything was foolproof. If I said this, he would definitely be suspicious and send someone to protect Sunny. Even if Sunny died 3 days later, I would have already left the city. The navigation showed that the car was still 3 kilometers away from the airport. The tense string in my heart relaxed a little. But the next second, a white Land Rover came towards me. My heart instantly rose to my throat. After I realized it, I quickly turned the steering wheel and managed to avoid the collision. But the car also missed the intersection leading to the airport. I had no choice but to turn around. But when I was going back, the white Land Rover that had just disappeared came towards me again. This time, I clearly saw her face. It was Sunny. I held the steering wheel and tried my best to dodge. But she was determined to force her way towards me. Bang! A loud noise resounded through the night sky. The hood of the car began to smoke and catch fire rapidly. Sticky blood kept flowing out from my forehead, and my vision gradually turned red. I struggled with all my strength to unbuckle my seat belt, staggered to Sunny's car, and put my hand on her nose to feel her breath. Fortunately, having fulfilled my obsession, she still had a faint breath. I quickly took out my phone from my pocket and dialed the emergency number. Only by saving her could I survive. After the police call was connected, I felt relieved. Great. Sunny wouldn't die. But the next second, Sunny suddenly opened her eyes and stared at me intently. Before I could react, she suddenly sat up, grabbed a piece of car window glass beside her with all her strength. No. No, I beg you. Don't. I grabbed the corner of her clothes and kept kneeling on the ground and begging. I promise I won't appear in front of Ethan. I'll leave tonight and never come back to Hai Chang. My body couldn't stop shaking. Please spare me. I don't want to die again. It really hurts so much. I want to live. Her hand stopped, and a trace of hesitation flashed in her eyes. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the ambulance in the distance, and I felt a little more at ease. Thank you. Thank you for choosing to live. As long as the ambulance arrived, Sunny could be saved. And I would be safe. A long-lost smile appeared on my lips. I seemed to see myself surviving and having a life full of hope. But as the sound of the ambulance in the distance approached, Sunny seemed to be stimulated. Her whole body couldn't stop shaking. And her eyes were filled with fear. Suddenly, she pushed me away violently. Then she clenched the piece of glass in her hand and cut the artery in her neck without hesitation. The scalding blood splashed all over my face. I slowly let go of the corner of her clothes and collapsed weakly to the ground. Just like in the previous times. When Ethan came over, he once again saw the false image of me killing Sunny. Ignoring the injuries on my body, he kicked me hard in the abdomen. My face rubbed against the ground, and the stone scratched my cheek, causing a burning pain. Ethan came over and stepped on my fingertips. You deliberately called Sunny first and said that you were so devastated by the broken engagement that you were going abroad to relax and asked her to come to the airport to see you for the last time. Sunny is kind-hearted. So she naturally agreed to you. Then you called me and said that there were enemies who wanted to kidnap Sunny and asked me to send someone to protect her. But when I sent people to the villa where Sunny lived, I found that Sunny was already on her way to the airport to find you. In this way, you could hire someone to kill her on the highway, and then pretend that you were also injured to clear your suspicion and shift all the blame to my enemies. Do you think that if Sunny died, I would marry you? I didn't know where Ethan got the basis for making such an inference. And I didn't know why Sunny wanted to commit suicide in front of me again and again. What on earth did she want to do? I definitely didn't call Sunny. But I had already lost the strength to defend myself. The previous 3 deaths made me understand that no matter what evidence I presented to prove my innocence or what kind of pleading I did, Ethan wouldn't choose to believe me. He firmly believed that I killed Sunny and cruelly took my life again and again. Even if he went to prison after killing me and the century-old enterprise of the Ethan family was destroyed, how on earth could this damn cycle end? What on earth should I do to survive? It seemed that I thought of something in my mind. I slumped on the ground and laughed wildly. Ethan frowned. What are you laughing at? I met his bloodthirsty eyes. I looked around with some misgivings and lowered my voice. Sure. Come closer. I'll tell you quietly. Ethan leaned down impatiently. The moment his ear was close to my mouth, I picked up the broken glass piece on the ground and stabbed towards his neck. Since I have to die, then Ethan, you can die with me. If you're dead, my parents can still live on. And they can spend their old age in peace. But I underestimated Ethan's ability. He dodged quickly and grabbed my wrist with his backhand. You did something wrong and still don't know how to repent. He broke my arm forcefully. And my screams echoed throughout the mountain road. I won't let you die so easily. Ethan locked me in the basement of the manor, tied me to the bed, and whipped me lash by lash. I was in so much pain that cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I passed out and was awake and by him splashing cold water on me. He tortured me day and night, not even giving me water to drink, and only keeping me alive with nutrient solution. Finally, having fulfilled my absai, when the maid was changing my blood-stained clothes, I exhausted all my strength to fall off the bed and kept hitting my head against the ground. My head was so dizzy that it seemed about to explode. Blood kept seeping out from my forehead. I finally took my last breath and ended this life that was worse than death. When I opened my eyes again, it was my 5th rebirth. I was sitting in Ethan's office. He was sitting opposite me. looking at the contract in front of him and tapping his fingers on the table. At this time, Ethan hadn't officially been with Sunny yet. He had just developed a liking for Sunny and hadn't determined whether he really liked her or not. In my previous life, I tried my best to protect Sunny and keep her alive. But she still died. That is to say, I couldn't make Sunny give up the idea of committing suicide. So what should I do to keep myself alive? Wendy. What's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? Ethan's voice pulled me back to reality. I took a deep breath and tried my best to control myself so that my body would stop trembling. It's okay. Maybe it's because of the recent change of seasons. And I've caught a bit of a cold. If you're tired, you should rest well. After all, if you're gone, I'll be a widower. Ethan stared at me and joked, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. I pretended to be shy and chuckled, meeting Ethan's gaze. A bold idea emerged in my heart. In the previous lives, Ethan thought that I was unwilling to have the engagement cancelled and wanted to marry into the Ethan family. So I was scheming to try to kill Sunny. So, what if I was the one who married Ethan from the very beginning? What if the engagement wasn't cancelled? Ethan had only met Sunny once at my birthday party. And he just had a slight liking for her. As long as Ethan doesn't fall in love with Sunny and doesn't marry her, he won't kill his wife because of a woman he just has a liking for. I've been by Ethan's side until now. And we've always been seen as childhood sweethearts by outsiders. When the Wendy family's group encountered troublesome matters, Ethan would rush to my side immediately and solve them for me. I once thought that Ethan loved me. But it wasn't until Sunny appeared that I clearly realized that Ethan didn't love me. He would cook for Sunny personally, pick her up and send her to and from work, always smile at Sunny, and was even willing to break off with his grandfather for marrying Sunny. Ethan chose me as his fiancé just because I had a good family background, was beautiful, highly educated, and capable, and I was the best candidate for the Ethan family's marriage alliance. Not because of some illusory love. Ethan's grandfather had always taught him not to let women mess up his mind. It seemed that I had captured some important information in my mind. Ethan's grandfather? Could it be that Ethan's grandfather threatened Sunny to commit suicide? I shook my head. Ethan's grandfather chose to compromise during the confrontation with Ethan and agreed to let Sunny enter the Ethan family. Moreover, if Ethan's grandfather didn't like Sunny, he would definitely secretly create an accident to get rid of Sunny and then choose me as Ethan's wife. How could he make Ethan hate me? President Ethan. Here's the wine you asked for. The secretary's voice pulled me back from my memories to reality. I smiled and took the wine handed to me by the secretary. Ethan was the only heir of the Ethan family. In order to have a grandson as soon as possible, Ethan's grandfather secretly instructed the people around Ethan to put an aphrodisiac in this bottle of wine. The Wendy family was in the pharmaceutical business. I had studied medicine since I was a child, and as soon as I took the wine glass, I sensed that something was wrong. In my previous life, I told Ethan about this, and we both tacitly chose not to drink this bottle of wine. Now, I calmly poured the wine into the glass and handed it to Ethan. I tried my best to overcome my fear of Ethan and raised a bright smile. Come on. Let's toast to successfully obtaining the development rights of the southern part of the city. Ethan chuckled and drank it without any precautions. The Ethan family's influence was dominant in Hai Cheng, and Ethan was certain that no one dared to play tricks on his territory. As soon as the wine glass was emptied, a feeling of heat hit me instantly. I looked up, and Ethan also frowned tightly at this moment, and his hands began to pull at his tie uncontrollably. I didn't care anymore. Although I have no love for Ethan now, saving my life is the most important thing. I walked up to Ethan and wrapped my arms around his neck. I feel so uncomfortable. The next second, Ethan uncovered my lips. When I woke up the next day, Ethan was already dressed neatly and sitting on the sofa, looking at the contract that the secretary had sent over that morning and needed to be signed. I glanced at my phone. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. And it was not yet time to go to work. A slight cold sweat seeped out on my back. I knew Ethan. When he was in a bad mood, he would work like crazy. I walked over, picked up the contract that he had thrown into the trash can, carefully pointed out the mistakes and modification suggestions on it, then squatted down and put my hand on his leg. Sorry. I rarely drink strong liquor. Moreover, there were several medicinal herbs in the medicine last night that I had never seen before. So I didn't smell the problem. Ethan's eyes darkened slightly. After a few seconds, he hugged me into his arms. It's okay. I don't blame you for this. I just don't like the feeling of being arranged by others. I'm leaving now. Secretary Wang will bring you some clothes later. I'll be working overtime at the company tonight and won't go back to the Ethan family for dinner. If you don't want to go either, find an excuse to decline it. After saying that, he got up and left. Looking at his departing back, I held onto the back of the sofa and let out a long breath. Ethan didn't like the feeling of being arranged by others. And now the anger in his heart had reached its peak. But this matter was the doing of Ethan's grandfather. And now he could only swallow his dissatisfaction. Fortunately, Hetty fulfilledly. He thought that I really didn't smell the aphrodisiac in the wine and didn't take his anger out on me. Few days later, Ethan's grandfather announced his withdrawal from the Ethan family group and transferred all his shares to his grandson Ethan. He was in a very good mood and set the wedding date between me and him. The wedding was very grand. And all the prominent people in HA I came to show their support. Out of caution, I didn't send a wedding invitation to Sunny. And I deliberately had a falling out with her and broke off our friendship a month before the wedding. I'm sorry, Sunny. In order to survive, I can only give up our friendship as girlfriends. I'm afraid that you will come to the wedding. And I'm afraid that you will meet Ethan. And there will be an intersection between you two again. But I didn't expect that Sunny still came on the wedding day. Wendy, aren't we the best of friends? Why didn't you let me be your bridesmaid when you got married? I forced myself to remain calm and said, I thought you were busy with work, so I didn't want to bother you. Besides, there are many etiquettes in the Ethan family. And it's very tiring. You go back first. After I get married, we can find a place and have a good time for a few days. Okay? Thank you, Wendy. But I still want to witness your happy moment. Sunny stood behind me, playing with my veil. In the dressing mirror, there was always a smile on her face. And I couldn't see any resentment. But I felt a chill on my back. Throughout the whole wedding, my heart was in my throat. Fortunately, apart from meeting Ethan in the hotel elevator and greeting each other out of politeness, Sunny and Ethan had no further interaction. The heart that had been hanging finally settled down. At night, Ethan tossed and turned with me for most of the night, having experienced being killed 4 times. Even though I have no love for Ethan now, I still tried my best to cater to him. At least I and my family are all alive. Time passed quickly. And in the blink of an eye, I had been married to Ethan for almost half a year. There was also a new life in my belly. Life gradually settled down. But I had nightmares every night. When I woke up, Ethan was never by my side. The Ethan family had been busy acquiring other companies recently. And he was indeed very busy at work. But no matter how busy he was, he shouldn't not come home even once into months. My heart was beating uneasily. The next day, having fulfilled my adsertion, the private detective sent the photos to my phone. The shooting distance was relatively far, and the people in the photos were blurry. But I still recognized at a glance that the people chatting and laughing in the photos were Ethan and Sunny. He thoughtfully bought a villa and hired servants for Sunny. During the days when Ethan didn't come home, he went to Sunny's place to spend the night. There was no intense pain of being betrayed in my heart, only fear. In the evening, I drove to the villa that Ethan had bought for Sunny. When Ethan saw me, there was no surprise in his eyes at all, as if he was sure that it was only a matter of time before I discovered this. I handed him the divorce agreement. Ethan, let's get a divorce. You can divide the property as you see fit. I won't interfere with your life from now on. Similarly, I will go to the UK after the divorce. And I don't want you to interfere with my life and the life of my child. Ethan frowned slightly, and a trace of guilt flashed in his eyes. Then he signed the divorce agreement. I will give you a larger share of the property. Sunny is different from other girls. She comes from a poor family. But she managed to get into a prestigious university by herself. When I was being hunted down by my enemies, she saved me downstairs in her house. I offered to give her money, but she refused to accept it and chose to work part-time to pay off her student loans. Ever since then, whenever I think of her, I have this urge to protect her. My head was a bit dazed. I thought that the wedding was the first time Sunny and Ethan met. It turned out that they had met long before. But when did she save Ethan? Why? After being reborn so many times. Do I have no impression of this matter at all? I opened my mouth to ask, but was interrupted by Ethan. These things don't matter anymore. For the sake of the Ethan family and the Wendy family, I hope the news of the divorce can be kept secret for now. I nodded. Things went more smoothly than I had imagined. I didn't care about the truth either. All I wanted was to stay alive safely. I took the divorce agreement, put it in my bag, and quickly left the study. But at the corner of the stairs when going downstairs, I met Sunny. Looking at her slightly protruding belly, there were only 3 words in my heart. Hide quickly. I walked downstairs quickly. But Sunny suddenly grabbed my arm. She looked so anxious that she completely ignored the safety of the baby in her belly. Before I could open my mouth to speak, tears streamed down Sunny's face. I'm sorry, Wendy. I never thought of stealing your position. But I've really fallen in love with Ethan. I will never threaten your position as Mrs. Ethan. Please. Don't send someone to abort my baby. My back was instantly soaked with cold sweat. The experiences in the previous lives made me clearly know what would happen next. Sure enough, when Sunny saw Ethan coming out of the study, she suddenly let go of my hand and fell backward. Blood stained her white nightgown red. My heart was filled with despair. Before Ethan could come over, I took out the fruit knife from my bag and rushed towards Ethan. He reacted quickly and snatched the knife away. I took out the anti-wolf spray from my sleeve and sprayed it at him again. He covered his face in pain. I kicked him hard in a certain place, turned around and started running. But I didn't expect that Ethan was so deeply in love with Sunny. He had also arranged security guards around the villa. I was pinned to the ground by the security guards after running only a few steps and had no power to resist. Before Ethan could come over, I crushed the poison I had prepared myself in my teeth. It's just suicide. Who can't do that? Rather than being tortured to death, it's better to choose to end my own life. When I woke up again, I was in front of Sunny's house. According to what Ethan said in the previous life, this was the place where he first met Sunny. The experiences of the previous lives through my mind continuously. The time of my rebirth was getting earlier and earlier compared to the time when Ethan met Sunny. My fingertips dug into my palms as I tried my best to stay awake. In the first rebirth, Sunny committed suicide and I died. In the second rebirth, Sunny committed suicide and I died again. In the third rebirth, I tried to protect Sunny from being hurt, but I failed and died. In the fourth rebirth, I tried to prevent Ethan from falling in love with Sunny, but I failed again and died again. What on earth should I do? How can I make Sunny not commit suicide? How can I survive in this fifth life? Why on earth does she want to commit suicide again and again? With these thoughts in mind, I didn't hesitate at all and entered the old apartment building in front of me. The dilapidated iron stairs creaked with every step I took. Sunny's home was on the top floor. The 8th floor. I was already out of breath when I climbed up there. But I didn't have time to rest. I hurriedly rummaged through and checked everything that Sunny had used, praying that I could find some clues. Finally, in the drawer of the desk in Sunny's bedroom, I saw a diary with a green cover. As soon as my hand touched the diary, a dagger pressed against my waist. Put it down. Don't move. As the man finished speaking, the incandescent lamp above flickered a few times and then suddenly exploded. It was pitch black all around, so dark that I couldn't even see my own hand in front of my face. My heart was pounding wildly in my chest, and I trembled as I spoke. Whatever you want, I can give it to you. Don't kill me. The man behind me was slightly stunned. Don't move. Put your hands together behind your back. My heart was in my throat. I didn't know why he asked me to do this. But now I was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, so I could only obediently let him manipulate me and put my hands behind my back. I felt the rough texture on my wrists. He was tying my hands with a rope. I frowned. If he was sent by Sunny, Why didn't he just kill me directly? The person behind me held a knife against my waist with one hand and wrapped the rope around my wrists with the other hand. I could feel that this posture was very strenuous for him. He tried to tie several knots but didn't succeed, and the tip of the knife was getting farther away from my waist. I judged the man's position according to the sound and stomped on his foot with all my strength. The man winced in pain, and the strength in his hands decreased a bit. I used all my strength to break free from the rope, then took out the anti-wolf spray from my bed and turned around to spray it wildly in front of me. But strangely, the man's scream didn't come. It was silent all around again. I was so scared that I quickly took out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The next second, the man suddenly appeared in front of me. His mouth stretched wide to the back of his ears, showing a sinister smile. Before I could react, he directly pushed me down, and my limbs were pressed down firmly. You still want to run? You really deserve to die. In a panic, my right hand groped and found a piece of broken glass. The desire to survive in my heart was ignited. I used all my strength to stab the piece of broken glass hard into the man's neck. The man let out a muffled groan. He covered his neck and fell straight down. I picked up my phone and shone it on the man's face. Sunny's boyfriend? Why was he here? No wonder his movements of tying me up were so slow. He didn't have a thumb and an index finger on his right hand. I covered my mouth and couldn't hold back my vomiting. The man also had one ear missing. The video from my third rebirth flashed through my mind. It was Ethan who did this to him. But at this time, had Ethan already fallen in love with Sunny? I didn't have time to think carefully. I quickly opened the diary. It was written in Sunny's handwriting. The content of the diary: I'm trapped in a cycle of being killed by Ethan. No matter how hard I try to escape, I will eventually die a tragic death at Ethan's hands. The terrifying thing is that after being reborn, I don't have the memories of my previous life. After many attempts and tests, I finally found an item that can preserve my memories. The diary in the rental house. The content of the diary: on the wedding day. On the rooftop. Sunny. Record. The first death. On the wedding day, Wendy appeared in the dressing room. She said that she had decided to let go of her feelings for Ethan over the years. But she couldn't help feeling a little sad in her heart and asked me to accompany her to the rooftop to get some air. There was still more than an hour before the wedding officially started, so there was plenty of time. I agreed to her request. But when I accompanied her to the rooftop, she pushed me away and walked step by step towards the edge of the rooftop. Why did Ethan fall in love with you? What's wrong with me that I'm not as good as you? I will use my death to make Ethan remember me forever. I tried to hold her back, but I couldn't catch anything. She jumped off. Ethan rushed over, and before I could open my mouth, he came up and grabbed my neck. I've already married you. Isn't that enough to prove my love for you? Why did you push Wendy down? I really misjudged you. You're such a vicious woman. I didn't push Wendy. I could even choose not to marry you. It was you who said you loved me deeply and threatened me with the lives of my family to make me stay by your side. How could I become a murderer for someone I don't love? But I couldn't say a single word. Ethan exerted force with his palm and pushed me off the top floor. My hand started to tremble. And then I opened the second page. The content of the diary: on the wedding day. In the dressing room. Sunny. Record. The second death. I was actually reborn. Appearing in the wedding dressing room again. Wendy made the same request. This time, I refused her on the grounds that the wedding dress made it inconvenient to move. But she ran out of the dressing room crying. As soon as Wendy left the wedding scene, she was targeted by a homeless person. The other person destroyed Wendy's innocence and humiliated her to death in an extremely demeaning way. Afterwards, the homeless person identified me as the mastermind behind it in the police station, saying that I paid him to rape and kill Wendy. I tried my best to explain that I didn't do it. But Ethan firmly believed that I killed Wendy. He kicked me to the ground, pulled out the hairpin from my head and stabbed it into my neck. I closed my eyes in despair again. After I finished reading the first 2 pages, cold sweat kept breaking out on my back. Sunny had also experienced being killed many times. And in the world where she was reborn, I died for no apparent reason. And Ethan vented his anger on her because of my death. The huge amount of information made my head a mess. I took a deep breath and opened the third page. The content of the diary, on the wedding day. At the Ethan family villa. Sunny. Record. The third death. The pain hadn't completely disappeared. But the breeze blowing made me clearly realize that I was reborn for the third time. I woke up on the morning of my wedding with Ethan. At this time, the invitation had just been sent to Wendy. My friends beside me told me that Wendy couldn't make it because of an urgent matter in the company and advised me to understand. I nodded and felt relieved. Wendy was at home, so she should be fine. But at night, news of a fire came from the Wendy family. As soon as Ethan got the news, he rushed to the Wendy family villa. The fire raged and licked at the Wendy family villa, and thick smoke kept pouring out of the windows. Ethan rushed in regardless of his own safety. But all he saw was Wendy's charred body. The butler of the Wendy family walked over trembling Lai and said in a quivering voice that I had bribed him to pour gasoline all over the living room when Wendy was asleep. I didn't know why the butler of the Wendy family wanted to slander me. But I knew that, just like in the previous two lives, I couldn't escape a tragic death. But I never expected that Ethan would actually send his men to Yang Chen's residence. He grabbed my hair and forced me to watch the video of Yang Chen being humiliated. In the picture, after Yang Chen had his last two fingers chopped off by the thugs, he was beaten to death with a stick. Blood stained the screen red. I pleaded with Ethan to stop in a state of collapse. He looked at me coldly, his eyes full of chill. Wendy and I have already cancelled the engagement. Why did you still secretly harm her? Since that's the case, I'll have someone kill your ex-boyfriend Yang Chen so that you can also taste this feeling. I instantly lost all my strength and collapsed to the ground. Under the strong stimulation, my asthma flared up. I gasped desperately, but I couldn't get enough air. I closed my eyes in despair. The content of the diary, not long after we met. On the highway. Sunny. Record. The fourth death. I was reborn again. When I opened my eyes, Wendy sent me a message saying that she was leaving the city. My hand holding the phone trembled slightly. At this time, Ethan and I had just announced that we were together. Just after putting down the phone, a car came towards me. And it was Wendy. The two cars collided at a very high speed, and Wendy lost her life under the huge impact. In a state of complete despair, I picked up the piece of broken glass on the ground and inserted it into my neck. The content of the diary, when we first met. At the wedding scene. Sunny. Record. The fifth death. I went back to the time when I met Ethan. This time, he married Wendy. I thought I could escape this disaster. But I still died. Ethan recognized me at the wedding and secretly created opportunities for me to contact him. Later, he kept me in the villa. I thought that life would go on like this in the dark. At least my lover Yang Chen could live. But Wendy came to the door. After she saw me at the corner of the second floor, she rushed up and grabbed my arm. And then her body leaned backward. My heart was filled with despair again. My body fell forward with hers. And we fell down the stairs together. My head hit the steps. I closed my eyes in despair. The content of the diary, the first time we met. Downstairs in the community. Sunny. Record. The sixth death. I was reborn in the rental house. This was the place where I first met Ethan. That day, Wendy said that she had no appetite recently and wanted to eat the lotus root powder balls I made. I met Wendy in college. At that time, my mother chased and scolded me at school because I didn't send money home. After Wendy learned about my situation, she generously offered to support me through college. In return, I had to take down the key points of the teacher's lectures for her. She was busy studying and managing the group, and also busy with the class content. She really didn't have enough time. Over time, we became good friends. Since she wanted to eat them, I naturally agreed to this small request. In the morning, I went to the vegetable market to buy freshly picked lotus roots. In the corner of the alley on my way back, I saw Ethan covered in blood. I had seen this face in the local financial news. The stab wound on his abdomen made me realize that he was being hunted by his enemies. I stepped forward to bandage his wound briefly and made a call to the Ethan family as he requested. After seeing the people from the Ethan family come, I hid in the corner and left. Tall trees attract the wind. The Ethan family had many enemies in Hai Chang. I didn't want to get involved in these disputes. I didn't want Ethan to have any impression of me either. But later, at Wendy's wedding, Ethan still recognized me. Fate was intertwined. Just like in the previous life. Ethan said that he liked me. I struggled and resisted desperately. And even hid a dagger under the pillow to assassinate Ethan. But every time I was reborn, my body seemed to be controlled. I couldn't harm Ethan. Nor could I escape. In this life, Wendy died again. And I was also humiliated to death. Rebirth. Death. Rebirth. Death. Reborn again. And died again. I gradually realized that every 6 cycles formed a loop. After the 6th death, I was reborn again into the scene of my first death. Fear. Panic. Resistance. Unwillingness. Despair. Hatred grew wildly in my heart. If Wendy hadn't wanted to eat lotus root starch balls that day, and if I hadn't gone to the market to buy groceries, I wouldn't have passed by the alley entrance. And I wouldn't have met Ethan. I hate Wendy. And I hate Ethan even more. He clearly had an engagement with Wendy. Why did he change his heart and fall in love with me? Since he fell in love with me, why didn't he ask for my opinion and forced me to stay by his side? Why, after being with me, did he still keep thinking about Wendy? Cold sweat broke out on my hands. I couldn't help but laugh coldly. As I laughed, tears streamed down the corners of my eyes. The content of the diary made me understand that in Sunny's world, I was the one who died for no reason. And she was killed by Ethan. When Ethan was with me, he would think of Sunny. When he was with Sunny, he would miss me. It turned out that Ethan was the root of all the misfortunes. I continued to turn the pages of the diary. The content of the diary, I hate them. But every time I'm reborn, except for hurting myself, I can't change the trajectory of how things develop. Since that's the case, then I'll commit suicide and become Ethan's first love, leaving Wendy to face Ethan after I'm gone. Wendy has been hurt by Ethan time and time again. And she will definitely hate Ethan to the core. I'm really looking forward to it. So looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the day when Wendy can kill Ethan. So, I started to commit suicide to frame Wendy. The first time, I chose to jump off a building. The second time, I chose to commit suicide by pulling out my hairpin. The third time, I bribed the housekeeper of the Wendy family to send me a video. Framed Wendy. And after feeling heartbroken, I swallowed poison and pretended to commit suicide with asthma medicine. The fourth time, I chose to drive and create a car accident to commit suicide. The fifth time, I selected the right position, pretended to be pushed down by Wendy, and hit my head on the stone steps to commit suicide. As for the sixth time, I will choose to let the kidnappers end my life. I will bribe the kidnappers and make Ethan choose between me and Wendy, saying that only one of us can survive. No matter who Ethan chooses, I will commit suicide, and finally let the kidnappers accuse Wendy of hiring someone to kill me. Cold sweat instantly broke out on my back. The sixth death described in Wendy's diary is now. Before I could turn around and run away. Suddenly, in an instant, several men in black broke through the door. They rushed up and controlled me, tying me to a chair. Then Sunny was also tied up by them and brought into the room. Sunny. No, I'll kill Ethan with you. Before I could finish my words, my mouth was sealed with adhesive tape. Soon, wet out a low sorry. Ethan learned the news and rushed over. Just as written in Sunny's diary. She was killed by the kidnappers and framed me. I was once again humiliated to death by Ethan. The seventh rebirth. I went back to the day when I called Sunny and said I wanted to eat lotus root starch balls. At this time, Sunny hadn't met Ethan yet. I let out a bitter laugh in front of the desk. No wonder. No matter how hard I struggled or how hard I tried before, I couldn't change the direction of how things developed. It turned out that, as long as Ethan met Sunny, both she and I couldn't escape the fate of being tortured to death. Now, Ethan and Sunny haven't met yet. The cycle should end. Thinking of this, I quickly called and told Sunny not to go out tomorrow no matter what. At the same time, I rushed to Sunny's rental house overnight with a big bag of food and told her that she had to stay at home with me all day tomorrow. Not go anywhere. watch movies with me, have hot pot, and take a good rest and relax. Wendy smiled and refused, saying that she still had something to do and needed to go out. I frowned. Sunny must have finished reading the content of the diary by now, and she was still looking at me with hatred in her eyes. I took a deep breath. Sunny, let's kill Ethan together tomorrow. The other side fell into silence. After a few seconds, a voice came from the other end of the phone. Okay. I'll wait for you at home tomorrow morning. The next morning, I went to Sunny's house. In the previous lives, a time when Sunny met Ethan was 7 o'clock in the morning. Our eyes met, and the fear in my eyes, coupled with what I said last night, made her realize that I had the same experience as her. She let out a sigh and lowered her guard against me. After I detailed my experience, she stared at me, and her face changed drastically. You said, could it be that even if I don't save him, there will still be someone else to save him? I was struck like by lightning. Even without Sunny, in my world, there might still appear. Ethan would fall in love with someone else, and that person would be drawn into the tragic vortex again, and I still couldn't escape either. Sunny glanced at me, made up her mind, and quickly went downstairs. Just then, she happened to meet the people who were looking for Ethan. Hello. Have you seen this person? Sunny looked behind her, and the other party immediately understood and walked towards the entrance of the alley. The next day, the news of Ethan's death made it onto the local news. In the villa of the Wendy family, Sunny and I looked at each other and smiled, and then couldn't help but hug each other and cry. My mother came over to comfort me. I know you had a good relationship with Ethan, but the dead can't be brought back to life. Don't worry. Mom will definitely introduce you to someone more handsome than Ethan. I was sobbing uncontrollably. Mom, hurry up and introduce someone. I need to divert my attention and get out of this sadness. Beep beep. The ear-piercing screams kept ringing in my ears. I opened my eyes, and there was a blinding white light. It was a hospital. In a daze, the voice of Ethan's grandfather reached my ears. Wendy, you're awake? There has been a sudden change in the Wendy family, and now it's on the verge of bankruptcy. You and your friend were kidnapped by the enemies of the Wendy family. The Wendy family and the Ethan family used all their connections to find you here. For your safety, I want to cancel your engagement with Ethan. How about sending you to the UK? After all, in the face of love, staying alive is the most important thing. He emphasized the word, alive, very strongly. After hearing Ethan's grandfather's words, I didn't hesitate at all and nodded frantically. 3 months later, my engagement with Ethan was cancelled, and I boarded a plane to the UK with my family. Time flew by. It was summer again in the country. The news of Ethan's murder came through on my phone. Extra chapter, Ethan's grandfather. Ethan is the heir of the Ethan family that I painstakingly cultivated with my own hands. Wendy is the wife I chose for him. I had thought that the two of them only made the engagement out of suitability and mutual benefit. But I didn't expect that Ethan would put down his work to pick her up after class, and he would divert the killer for Wendy when he was being hunted down. Even though he stubbornly told me that he didn't like her. My experience as an elder told me that he had fallen in love with Wendy. The heir of the Ethan family group couldn't lose his composure for a woman. In order to let him meet a woman different from Wendy, I arranged for killers to deliberately hunt Ethan down, and secretly calculated the time so that Sunny would accidentally save Ethan. After Ethan met Sunny, I told him that Sunny was a rare design genius and asked him to have more contact with her. He also listened to me and invited Sunny to meet several times. I originally wanted to use this to sow discord between Sunny and Wendy, and make Wendy do something to hurt Sunny out of jealousy. In this way, having fulfilled my obsession, Ethan would see the unpleasant side of Wendy, and thus his affection for Wendy would fade. But I didn't expect that Ethan actually fell in love with Sunny during the process of getting to know her. He even proposed to cancel the engagement with Wendy and marry Sunny instead. To eliminate the potential trouble once and for all, I had to make both of these women leave Ethan. So I secretly sent people to kidnap the two of them to the hospital, and then asked the doctor to connect the newly trial-run brainwave virtual device. I set up dreams. Let them be reborn again and again. Make them feel scared. want to escape, and be desperate. During the time when Wendy was gone, I sent the senior members of the company to secretly suppress the Wendy family, causing the Wendy family to go bankrupt. When Wendy woke up, I proposed to send her family to live in the UK. After everything that happened in the dreams, Wendy and Sunny nodded in agreement and left Hai Cheng. But I couldn't understand, and even less could I accept. Why did the assassination scene that happened in the dream also occur in reality? Why was Ethan killed at the entrance of the alley? I couldn't bear the blow and vomited blood day and night. Why? Why did Ethan have to die? I couldn't stand Ethan's death and committed suicide by taking medicine. Extra chapter: Ethan grandpa asked me that day if I liked Wendy. I noticed that when he asked me, his brows were tightly furrowed. Realizing something was wrong, I quickly denied it. I said that I was nice to her just because she was the fiancé of the Ethan family, and I was considering the face of the Ethan family. If there was a more suitable candidate, I would cancel the engagement with Wendy immediately. My seemingly perfect answer was met with a cold laugh from Grandpa. I couldn't hide it from him. He saw that I liked Wendy. To protect Wendy, I accepted Grandpa's arrangement and invited Sunny to a dinner several times. When Wendy learned about it, she came over angrily to question me. I wanted to explain, but for her protection, I couldn't tell the truth. I hardened my heart and said that I had fallen in love with Sunny and wanted to cancel the engagement with her. That was the first time I saw Wendy break down. She cried and said okay to me. When I told Grandpa that I wanted to cancel the engagement and marry Sunny, his eyes darkened slightly, and he thought I had fallen in love with Sunny and targeted Sunny. I'm sorry, Sunny. I used you as a shield and even hurt your boyfriend, but I really had no choice. I was afraid that Grandpa would hurt Wendy. I told myself in my heart to wait a little longer. Until I had the ability to take control of the Ethan family on my own. Until I had the ability to bring Grandpa down. And then I would explain everything clearly. But I overestimated myself. After Grandpa kidnapped Sunny and Wendy, I used all the connections of my subordinates to look for them, but I couldn't find any clues. The Wendy family also went bankrupt under the suppression of Ethan's grandfather. After Sunny and Wendy left Hai Cheng, I found that dream device and watched the scenes of Wendy's experiences over and over again. Watching her being scared, confused, and desperate. I shook my head and smiled bitterly. Grandpa, are you really that afraid of me falling in love with someone else? Back then, you drove my mother out of the house to make me independent. And now you've driven Wendy out of Hai Cheng again. I turned off the machine in despair. According to the scenes in the dream, I sent people to disguise themselves as the enemies of the Ethan family and had them hack me to death at the entrance of that alley. My life ended at the age of 25. In that summer with the chirping of cicadas. The end.